welcome to this week's episode of Business Solutions, where we provide solutions on formed lifestyles. My name is Kingsley, oluoko, and I'm pleased to inform you that after 1.5 years of providing solutions and offering alternatives to the issues plaguing the business sector in the country and abroad, this is my last episode of Business Solutions here in Pearl Radio. But stick out to see where else we shall go and on board this platform just to talk about businesses with CEOs, chief financial managers, and all other people in this business space. And today I'm joined by Lucy Namu from the Kenya Accreditation Services. We shall be talking about accreditation and its role in building quality infrastructure and trade facilitation in the country. Welcome so much, Madam Lucy. I'm so pleased to honor you on this final episode here on Pearl Radio, and we just wish to understand and know who are Kenas and what do you do.
Thank you very much, Kingsley, for warmly inviting us here to Pearl Radio. And thank you very much, listeners, for tuning in to this business segment. My name again is Lucy Namu. I'm a Chief Manager Laboratories working at the Kenya Accreditation Service, which is what KENAS stands for in full. So what does KENAS do? KENAS is really the only accreditation body in the country. It is called the sole accreditation body for Kenya. Now, what then portends to the mind is, what is accreditation?
Yes.
And what is its importance? Now, accreditation is the formal recognition of inherent competence. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but the sole role of KENAS is to assess and accredit what we call conformity assessment bodies, or CABs in short. So KENAS accredits and as such confers competence, and this is a word that we need to underline, competence to conformity assessment bodies in the country and in the region. So maybe just to go a little bit beyond all this, when you say competence or accreditation, what is it? Really, it is the independent review, if you like, of a body that they are able to implement certain requirements of international standards in line with the expected outcomes, and to then confirm to the world, because then KENAS has that mandate to confirm to the world that this kind of a body is competent to do so. Which kind of bodies do we talk about? There will be testing bodies, there will be inspection bodies, or certification bodies. And I want to go to a little bit more detail for our listener, just to share what are these acronyms, which kind of organizations these are. We loosely call them conformity assessment bodies. A conformity assessment body is that which will undertake a conformity assessment activity, such as what I have said, testing, inspection, or certification. Yeah.
So just to mention that you've mentioned about accreditation, and when you're mentioning about the organizations who are your clients, who you accredit, I'm used to the basic, to our listener who's in the basic settlement. When you go to, for example, a pharmacy, you'll find so many certificates on the stuck to the wall. Maybe you could differentiate what is certification, what is accreditation, what is the balance, and how do you get to understand the differentiate between these two?
Thank you, Kingsley. And this is a question we get asked a lot. What does it mean? Now, this is what it is. I want to talk about the very basics. When we go to a hospital, many times the doctor will say, for me to be able to confirm a diagnosis, please go to the lab and have test 1, 2, 3, 4 done. Okay? Maybe you're feeling you have a flu, maybe you're feeling you're a little down. So you might have some of them being a total blood count, a malaria investigation and all. But the question that never comes to our mind is, how sure am I that the test I get is really what I have? Because sometimes, and many times we know in science, things could go wrong. Now, what accreditation does is that it has a set of rules and KENAS, as the only body that is recognized to implement these rules, I will loosely call them, in Kenya and in the world, it looks at specifically these set of rules and how they are applied for a laboratory. Now, a medical clinic will have a lab. So one of the things is we look at when this lab applies, we look at, are you meeting the requirements of this international rule or standard? So then once we go through the assessment, meaning we look at how your equipment are they calibrated, are your staff trained, are the rules with respect to whether you're doing the test properly, is the test done right, is the person who is doing the test competent enough to carry out the test. Then we then go through that assessment and give a decision which is called the accreditation. So every time for us who are the consumers of these services, we must ask ourselves, is the lab I'm visiting really accredited? And what you will find is that an accreditation certificate issued by KENAS will have the status of this laboratory. It will have a period within which this laboratory can operate within those rules. And it will also have a very important parameter which is called the schedule, meaning you're accredited to do this test and this test and this test. Not a blanket approval, but for specific tests that you have been found to have inherent competence that has been confirmed.
Oftenly, we've seen accreditation or even these processes to run your business seem like bottlenecks for businesses. For example, you're talking about labs or even chemists, for layman's language. They normally appear like layman's, but to the end user who needs an assurance that where you've gone to seek a particular services, it is accredited, for example, by KENAS, then what should our listener now know that the importance of going to a place that is accredited, and how do you determine if this place is accredited?
Yeah, very good question. The listeners need to be keen and attentive. Number one, you will know that a place is accredited because it will display its accreditation certificate at the entrance, at a conspicuous place for a consumer to know these are the services that I offer that are accredited. So you will be looking out for a certificate. Second, I just want to look at some of the other areas. I only talked about testing. Maybe that is one.
Yeah.
But for pharmacies, for example, they sell drugs. And these drugs need to meet certain quality requirements. And now you will ask me, quality, isn't that somebody else? But what KENAS does is then looking at the requirements with respect to the tests that are done to say, this Panadol has 500 milligrams of paracetamol, that laboratory has competent, qualified staff, appropriately calibrated equipment that meets the international standards and rules, and therefore the test that it is giving is accepted and deemed competent worldwide. Now, why do I say worldwide? It's very important. Worldwide because of this. KENAS is the only arrangement and signatory member of AFRAC in the East Africa community. So it means it's the only body that we have in East Africa. We are also accrediting other bodies in East Africa and in Africa as well. So what this does is KENAS has been put in a club where all the laboratories, all the agencies that carry out conformity assessment activities and are accredited by KENAS are recognized around the world. So what it means is your lab that is accredited, for example, for doing certain tests when you're not well. When you go with that certificate to, for example, a lab or to see a doctor in India, that certificate, because it is issued by an accredited medical laboratory, is recognized. So what advantage does it portend? It means that you don't have to keep retesting. Retesting every time you go to a different place. Why? It is an accredited lab. I want to speak to a different industry that we also have conformity assessment activities in, and that is inspection bodies. every time we go on the roads, we always wonder whether the lorries that are on the road
are meant to be
are
there.
really meant to be there, or the trailers are meant to be there, or your school buses or your buses indeed are supposed to be there. We have collaborated with the National Transport Safety Authority in developing a scheme that now all bus body builders, people who build buses, must be accredited. The Bus Body Builder Association must be accredited, and therefore when the bus body is built, there are certain requirements with respect to how it should be built. This has then increased the safety on our roads. I know we will say, but we still see accidents of buses falling and crashing. The grace period was given, and I think the grace period elapses perhaps next year. So this is the phasing period, because once you give a directive, it really doesn't come into place immediately. Number two, when you see lorries going into weighbridges, every time we ask, that lorry seems to be really heavily laden. How sure are we it is carrying the right weight for the road that it is using? Those weighbridges are subject to accreditation, and the Highway Authority has required that all weighbridges must be accredited to undertake inspection.
Okay. So you've mentioned about accreditation, and does it have a period? Maybe 3 years or 4 years, or once you're done?
You're done.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. What we have as KENAS is that we provide a cycle. It is called a cycle of 4 years. Within these 4 years doesn't mean that you get your certificate and we sit back. We carry out what we call surveillances every 6 months, every 1 year. We come to your premise and we see that you're still sticking to these international rules or standards. We then continue having you in the accreditation database. There's something I wanted to talk about in the area of certification. You talked about certification and what is the difference. Now, accreditation looks at competence. I talked about competence that is inherent. So we're looking at you who does the test, or you who does an inspection or a certification. Are you competently doing so in line with the rules that are set out? On the other hand, a certification body, one that gives you certificates, is one that looks at compliance with a process. It says my process will be you pay the fees, you give me this and this document, I look at it, and I give you a certificate. So that now is certification. Compliance with set guidelines and rules, which is what also happens with ISO 9001. It is a standard that looks at, have you got a management system that speaks to the key areas that we say you must comply with? Now, what about licenses? Licenses are those that attract a fee, and they're usually a regulatory fee, but based on a certification.
Okay. It kind of sounds that accreditation overrides the other, because licensing and certification could be from a local authority, but accreditation now is an overbody that cuts across various legal and statutory frameworks. I also wish to understand, maybe before we wrap up this section of accreditation and its value in the country, how then does this contribute to public health? You've mentioned about the transport authority, the NTSA, and we know this talking with accidents, issues to do with the compliance on accidents. We've talked about the medical side and testing and all that. Then how does this contribute to public health, to a child, to the road user, a motorist, a daily person who goes to work 8 to 5? How does this contribute?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Now, look at the flip side of how this happens. When you look at your child going to school, you have gone to school for, let your child go to school in a bus. You are rest assured at least the bus will bring your child back in the evening safely. But because you didn't know that the role played by the NTSA is so important in making sure buses comply with certain requirements of how they build their chassis, how they build their carrier, and what carriage capacity they must attest to, you do not need to worry. And this is where the benefit to the public is. Public health, safety, and the environment. Look at our environment also. We have labs that carry out tests. Many times we've heard there has been a spill and a certain area has suffered pollution. These labs that do tests, we are requiring now NEMA that ensure the labs that do tests for them are accredited. Because why? You need to be sure that these results issued have competently been undertaken and provide the confidence of environmental assurance that we need to protect the environment.
I hear you, and I feel like throwing this to you. Then how do we cure these issues of quack doctors and stop seeing Geoffrey Mosita, the CC environment, running over, because it feels like there are loopholes, and you're talking about competency. Then is it? You see the mismatch?
Yes.
Where is it coming from?
Yes, thank you, Kingsley, for this. In its wisdom, our government at the end of last year, 27th of December 2024, made accreditation now mandatory. What does that mean? There seems to be lapse, as you have said. It has been voluntary for a long time, but we have seen the benefits in different economies. We have engaged with the United Kingdom, for example. We see how they have used accreditation to improve. Why is there a lapse? Now, if, for example, we are not dealing with people who are competent in undertaking the work that we do, the licensing, for example, of food handlers, just comes to mind. We also see economies like China, where they have special schemes that look at interests. In Kenya, our CECM environment may want to look at how do we improve public health of people dealing with food and food handling. Now, one of the things that we could do is accredit the facilities that provide the certificates for health for workers in the food environment. I know there have been a lot of people who get certificates from the public health, city council health centers. But look at the scheme. The compliance can be enhanced through accreditation. And it makes it easier even for regulators, because they know once an institution is accredited, the risk now is reduced for them.
Yes.
The risk is also shared with us at KENAS, who have now a mandate of looking at the competence at which these bodies are doing the activities that they purport to do.
Coming in the backdrop of the when the government now made accreditation a mandatory requirement for the country, that we had the World Accreditation Day. Was it the first one that the country has marked? Because it was a low-key event, really.
Yeah, well,
I got to hear it after it has happened, and I was so sad.
Yes, thank you very much, Kingsley. It was lower than expected attended, but the World Accreditation Day that was marked also by KENAS is marked the world over on the 9th of June every year. And this year was a very special one. The theme was accreditation, empowering small and medium enterprises. So we reached out to a number of people in this area, in health. As you know, we've served various sectors. We reached out to people in the health sector. We reached out to people in engineering, in the marine sector. The marine sector, one that is growing, the MSMEs a lot. Even you can think of the small fisher folk around Lake Victoria and how they earn their living. We reached out also to people in transport area, the building economy, building is one of the areas where we've also seen a lot of mishaps with respect to collapse of buildings. And one of the focus was how can we entrench accreditation in these sectors, How has some of them, what are the experiences that they came to share with us of how their business has really prospered? We also had banks, financiers who were talking to us about, this is an interesting model, because if we knew accreditation lowers risks with respect to trade, they would be able to advance more loans to small and medium enterprises to do business across borders. A lot of the industries now coming up are run by small and medium enterprises. We on KENAS also have about 83% of the accredited clients are small and medium enterprises. So this is where the focus and future of trade is looking at.
Okay, I want to understand how accreditation happens in small, medium enterprises, because these are sole proprietors, talking of thrift stores who are calling themselves MSMEs, and it is true they're under 50 million turnover in the year. Apart from the certification that maybe they need to register through eCitizen, then how does accreditation play? Because you're talking about competence, but then anybody can just come up with a business. So then how does that apply?
Thank you, Kingsley, for this very, very, very important question. I want us to look at this sector that is along Jogoo Road, a very, very thriving economy.
Yes.
MSMEs that make items, brick and mortar, really looking at the hardware of the small tools and equipment that are made for our use. Now, these are industries that have very skilled, very, very skilled workers. Now, one of the things that we do know is that the MSME ministry is looking at a database of all these MSMEs.
Yes.
And in China, what we saw is that these MSMEs set rules so that they can what? They can grow their businesses. They can grow and have them recognized across the world. So what we would look at doing at KENAS is working towards having a scheme that covers these MSMEs or these workers who build these suitcases, jikos. They have a special skill that looks at persons, certification of persons, so that their products then can be marketed throughout the region. We also have a scheme that looks at accreditation of products. That is looking at the competence at which we make the product at the end of the day. What are the requirements? How do we adhere to them consistently and every time? So these are schemes that have, for example, we know there's one in horticulture called Fresh Grown in Kenya, Fresh Flown. Those are unique labels, and those labels are what then become accredited so that they can fetch a premium market the world over. Remember, I said accredited is only done by KENAS. Accreditation can only be done in KENAS, and therefore accredited ones accepted everywhere in the world. So these products that we have from MSMEs are something that we can look at having a scheme to accredit. Okay. So that even a suitcase that is made by a Juakali artisan on Jogoo Road is one that is unique and can sell across borders, especially for our school-going children. Yeah.
And I think I will wish that you just make an appeal to MSMEs on accreditation, because I've hosted severally, and one of their concerns is these processes. They normally feel it's tedious, it's costly for a small business person. Then how then should they seek accreditation, even as you remove the stereotype that accreditation could be costly to your business even as you begin? Because now you've mentioned that in the World Accreditation Day that happened on June 9th, you invited banks. These are key financiers for MSMEs. You invited a particular industries. You've mentioned about the marine, you've mentioned about engineering. Then there's the intermarrying between the MSMEs and these sectors. But then when you mention about accreditation, it chases away MSMEs.
Yeah. Thank you, Kingsley. This is a very good question, and this is one that we are now navigating actively. In understanding the needs of MSMEs, one of the things, of course, they always say is it is expensive. But I want to come back to the point that I made earlier, and how you're able to trade across borders. Look at the goat farmers, people who rear goats, who rear animals, and they want to export their livestock. Especially look at the people in Northeastern. One of the things that we did was develop a scheme. It's called the Halal Certification Scheme, that now makes it possible for more and more exports to go to the Middle East, the countries where they need a certain adherence to requirements on how animals are slaughtered, animals are handled. Now, this is a scheme that has assisted a small business be able to consolidate animals from small nomadic farmers or even ranchers. But with the accreditation, given to a certification body, they are able to access a market and even grow more. Now, how could we support this? I know for the very, very small, it will be a little bit different. We do offer training. Training is offered, and we do engage
at
sectors. At Kenas. Kenas has been the leader in offering training for accreditation purposes, and is the only body that is recognized really to do so. So what do? We're also working on having a scheme where we can have subsidies or support scheme. I want to call it a support scheme because subsidies arises another connotation. A support scheme for really small and medium enterprises that are of national interest to grow these MSMEs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That was elaborate, and I've loved that you're roping in and you're understanding the needs of these MSMEs, which is quite good when you want to meet the specific needs of the MSMEs. And what was your highlight of June 9th, even before we build up to the conference that is coming in November? What was your highlight about June 9th?
I think June 9th was one of those days that the participants now realized how much potential there is in trade, because we know that we are a large producer country, very active economy, hardworking people, but sometimes access to markets is difficult, but the markets are there. So accreditation provides that pathway, not just for the world's markets, but even within Africa. Within the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, there are initiatives to support MSMEs. We have only about 10% trade in Africa. But absolutely, the highlight was the upcoming International Accreditation Conference,
which is happening on November.
It is happening in November.
Are the dates out?
We hope the dates are out as 11th to 13th, but I don't want to confirm that at this point. But November for sure it is. We're calling upon every person, every investor in this economy, MSME, large businesses, facilitators, consolidators, export, shipping agencies to come on board and just participate in this International Accreditation Conference. Who will you meet? You will meet people internationally who have been involved in development of, I would say, schemes to support trade. You will also meet professors who are involved in research and who also develop a lot of the work that we here in Africa do. The other day you heard about the launch of the vaccine for HIV/AIDS. That is a scheme that is offered in accreditation, so we also are hosting speakers like that. We will host also international speakers who provide aid and support to MSMEs to grow industries, but also our own local people who will be publishing papers, scientific papers, who will speak to a subject in research, a lot of them active in health, water sector, transport sector, building economy, and all that is something that we want to put together so that at the end of the day we have a mechanism for small and medium enterprises to thrive and grow and get support.
It's a plethora, it's an open wide, not limited to health and inspection, but everybody.
Kenas, thank you Kingsley for reminding me. Kenas traverses all sectors of the economy, even the upcoming carbon emissions and requirements for greener environment. We know that we're very passionate here in Kenya about climate change.
And the 30 plus, is it 50 plus million trees?
And the growing of the 50 plus million trees. But how do you then boast about it to the world that this is it? You must have a system of verifying and validating the data that you get from the growing of the trees to the reduction of the carbon that is emitted by the environment.
Now that you've brought about the opening up the scheme to very many players, there are some industries in the country currently or even globally that are missing out on regulations. For example, cryptocurrency, which is now coming in the country boldly and largely. Then you have regulators like the CBK who are still non-committal to regulation, and they're telling us you engage with that, but that is at your own risk. Then how does accreditation come into such kind of players?
Thank you, Kingsley. KENAS is really looking at this. It's the new age, the digital age, and the movement has been really developing schemes that speak to this. So we do have schemes that look at the information security environment that we have already people, the ICT authorities is really working towards making sure that this is entrenched within the system. But also for banking sector, we have the anti-bribery and money laundering scheme that looks at how practice across banks, across foreign, current money institutions and money markets should be behaving. So this is an area that I know has been really lagged behind. Technology moves faster than regulation, and therefore we must use and leverage on tools offered by accreditation to grow and try and develop how we can regulate this. It will be one of the segments that we speak to in the International Accreditation Conference, and we hope to have speakers even from the international scene that have successes in how they have managed to do this.
Someone listened to Madam Lucy today and she says, or he says, I want to get accredited. How do they move and meet KENAS?
Thank you, and karibu sana if you're out there. First things first, you need to get in touch with us. I know we talk a lot about get in touch. If you go to our website, KENAS website, which is www.kenas.go.ke, you will get the information on the website. But to make it easier, we also have telephone contact and we have a help line on the website where you can quickly type your question and you have a response in a matter of minutes. We have also an email. The email that we like to use is info, INFO, at kenas.go.ke, where you seek information. So what are the basic requirements? First, we need to understand who are you. What is the conformity assessment activity you're involved in? Is it testing? And all types of testing. Remember, there's a general testing lab, a medical lab, a calibration lab. Are you an inspection body that is looking at fitness of something, meeting criteria? Or are you a certification body that is looking at certification of maybe people, products, processes that speak to requirements? And after that, we then give you the walk pathway to each one of those requirements. It will either be a standard for testing, 17025 in short, or ISO IEC 17025 for a general testing lab. For a medical lab, it will be ISO 15189. For inspection body, it will be ISO 17020. For certification body, you have certification of persons, which is 17024. You have also product certification, which is 17065, and we guide you into all that. We have trainings that we conduct so that you really understand what is required. We don't want you to walk in the park in the dark. So we handhold you, we provide you the training, and then after that, we also provide you systematic assessment, if you would like, of your system to see readiness. Are you ready for the actual first assessment? And if not, we offer you other additional trainings if you would like. The trainings are also available on the website. You can log into the website and you have the part where you have the trainings scheduled, and you log on to that and register. They come at a fee, but we really do have flexibility in whether you have them in-house. We're able to work a formula on how to host them in-house if you have a group of around 15 to 20, or we have the ones that are on the calendar that we host at specific sites.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Lucy, for that. Maybe you just closing remarks even as we gear up to see you in November, and just inviting everybody who needs to be there to get their accreditation ready.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I cannot underemphasize or overemphasize the importance of our first ever. I want to emphasize it is the first ever in the world International Accreditation Conference, really a brainchild of our CEO, Dr. Walter Ongeti, and it is going to attract participants from around the world. So what are we looking at? Exhibitions. If you're an exhibitor, you just like to exhibit your products that are used by labs, you're more than welcome. We have ample space. We will provide you space to do your exhibition. And of course, you will have then the customers at hand because there will be labs attending. We will also have side events where we talk in detail about how we can assist you walk the journey, how we have seen successes of some of the entities in accreditation, what businesses are there, how small national scheme interests can be developed. And for you in the MSME, of course, we will have financial bodies also presenting and offering solutions to trade.
There you have it. You cannot make this stuff up. Thank you so much, Madam Lucy, the Chief Manager Laboratories at the Kenya Accreditation Services. You've had it, and all eyes are focused for November. The dates will be out. The first ever accreditation conference here in Nairobi. We are so happy to host this in the country for the very first time, and you cannot miss this. You have to come and meet all other like-minded individuals for testing and inspection, and even the MSMEs. You'll be meeting exhibitors there and your next client, of course, which is the better part of all this conversation. That has been this week's episode of Business Solutions, and the final one here on Pearl Radio. Until next time, my name is Kingsley Oluoko.